right. The next show that we have is Natsume Yuujinchou Go, or Book of Friends 5.
Yes. It's from season to season, because, this is now the 5th season of the series, and from season to season, you get to see a little bit more, and you get to learn a little bit more about the main character, Natsume, and, you see how bad his past has been growing up, and because of his ability to be able to see, yokai and all that, because he was kind of, I don't even remember exactly. I don't even think they actually explained yet as far as his parents go, as far as their death, or if they were just abandoned him or whatnot. But he was passed around from family member to family member, and every time, because of his ability, and being as a kid, and he didn't understand it, he would get, in trouble, or some things would happen, and he'd have to get, sent to a new family, and a new family, and a new family. This season's, it's much the same thing. You get little excerpts, little stories here and there, seeing about his past, but then you also see, what's going on in his current life and how he's actually found himself a good and decent family. And I like in this season how they do the current family that he is with. Even from the very start, you could kind of tell that they were good people. And the more that the few episodes that they kind of showed in it about them, I like they did a backstory, kind of right before he went to them. They gave kind of a backstory about the people that he's with right now and why they decided to take him in. And I thought that was just, it's just kind of I think what Bouquet over there was trying for with the other show. It was kind of a nice, lighthearted, good feel kind of anime to it. And it does have its little moments of action and a little bit of suspense in certain areas, and whatnot. But if for all the craziness, for watching Bungo Stray Dogs and their intense action and all over the place being intense moments, it's nice for this anime where you get to kind of step back and just enjoy a very quaint but interesting kind of slice of life, I guess. And again, you really feel for the characters. I think they do an excellent job with characterization. The Neko Sensei, his yokai cat that's with him. Every time, it's even from the very beginning when he was he kept telling Natsume, he's eventually I'm going to eat you, or eventually I'm going to kill you, or eventually, always talking about his death. But the more he's with him and everything, you're okay, there's a bond between the two of you here. There's a nice friendship relationship between the two of you, and you can see how he kind of cares for him and, tries to help him out whenever he tries to do crazy things, which unfortunately happens quite a bit. But just because he gets put in situations where doing the right thing is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. So he kind of has to make those hard decisions and whatnot. So, but again, it's definitely a nice, feel-good kind of anime with a nice slice of life and interesting characters to go along with it, because every time he meets with a new yokai, if there's a new story that goes along with it, and it's usually only one episode for each one, but every time they go along with a new yokai, it's, you get to see different ones. They're never the same one twice. There's always different ones, different stories to go along with it, so you get to see different aspects. And I'm not up on necessarily the history of monsters and such from Japan or whatnot, but I like to think that a lot of them, they've taken stories and things from that and just use that as a way to continue along with it. And he just meets them along his journey and along his way. Sometimes they're wanting their name back. Sometimes they're just needing help for some reason. And just because he is an actual person who has strong spiritual powers, because he can see them, he ends up getting kind of, I guess, in a sense, shanghaied a lot of the times into helping them out in whatever potential situation or predicament they're in. So, but again, it's a lot of fun. It's never like in a moment where you just kind of get irritated or mad at it. It's always just one of those, you get kind of intense moments and you're like, okay, cool, this is awesome, whatever. So, and again, I'm hoping in the future, because I mean, I don't see the reason that they're going to have to get another season for this at some point along the way. But I'm hoping in the future that we get more information pertaining to exactly his past and everything that went along with this, and hopefully kind of see what he decides in the future, because in the recent series he's also met with a lot of exorcists, and he's kind of skirting that path a little bit of kind of becoming that, because I mean, just like with people, there's always the good and the bad with the yokai, and sometimes you can't do anything else with them except exorcise them and banish them, essentially. Basically kill them. He doesn't like to do that, and he does seal them a lot of times, most of the time, but occasionally he does exorcise the whatever monster it is, and it's interesting to see whether or not that's going to be something he'll do in the future, if he'll actually become a full-on exorcist just because of his abilities or whatnot. And again, I'd like to see more about what his past was like and see where all this kind of originated and came from. So
5 out of 5.
Oh yeah, I mean it's 5 out of 5. And I'm the one who was like all in for like things like One Punch Man and Hellsing Ultimate, and just the blood, the gore, the violence, and everything. And this is a 5 out of 5 for a completely different reason. This is 5 out of 5 because it's a nice, easy. This is something you could probably binge watch and just turn it on, and just have a nice relaxing moment.
That sounds really good after.
Oh, yeah.
Like a nice, I don't know, after work, kind of calming down anime.
Definitely. Because again, I mean, and just you get those moments, like those little things that you see with Neko Sensei and him, the little bonding moments they do. Like there was one point where he was sick, and his actual form is a big, basically wolf, almost kind of like in the same sense as Naruto with the fox, but in that same like size kind of factor. He's just a huge wolf character, and like when he transforms, like in a room, he will fill the room completely up, basically. And there's one moment where he's like, and in his cat form, and he's like telling him, "Oh, you're such a weak human. Oh, why do you have to get sick all the time? Why do that?" And complaining and everything to him. And then at the end of it, like, you see him and like you'll see Natsume kind of wake up a little bit, and he kind of is like, "What is that?" And then he kind of drifts back to sleep, and then you notice that he's in his wolf form, curled up around him, giving him warmth and trying to, and it's kind of one of those, you just kind of get one of those smirks. You're just like, oh, that's nice, So I mean, it's one of those, you're like, he always complains, he always says, eventually, you're gonna die, I'm gonna take the book for myself, and this, that, and the other thing. But then there's just these moments you're just like, you look at him and go, yeah, you're just saying that. You're saying that because you kind of have to, because you're a yokai and you don't want to look weak in front of everyone else. But in reality, you really care for him. So
yeah.
Hells yeah.
Yeah. I want to say that this is a really, really good slice of life show, because Shade is really not a big fan of slice of life shows.
No.
And for this one to hold his attention for 5 seasons and maybe 6, I definitely want to recommend it, because I saw the first episode, and I don't know, it's like being in a world with yokai is somewhat similar to like Inuyasha, because that's a show that I had watched a lot of, and it was cool to see like all of these different types of yokai. And like watching this show is more of like a realistic, like present day kind of yokai experience.
Yeah.
I really want to get back to it, but
Because I mean, go ahead.
yeah, it's like I'm glad I finally watched an episode of it just to see like why you've loved it for 5 seasons, and I see all of them.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying with like the different yokai, there's always times because like there's been friends of his who have asked about it and been like, so you've seen these things, and then he's kind of opening up to some people about that, and it's funny when he's just walking through school, and sometimes you'll see like some like figure probably about the size of maybe like a large dog, kind of floating in the air, like following somebody, but then you'll see like these little tiny, like bitty, maybe about yay big, just kind of like sitting there or walking along, and it's always just interesting to see the different varieties and different things and all that. So
That was good.
Yeah, I'm always inspired to watch the show after you talk about it.
He's so passionate.
One of these days.
Yeah, one day I'll start from the beginning.
So, Shade, have you been following it from the beginning also, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I started it like from the very. I think I missed like the first season, and when it saw it was season 2, I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. And once I hit from the first season, I couldn't stop. I just kept watching this. This is season 5.
Okay.
So now there's 5 complete seasons out there for it, and so.
Now, could you watch season 5 by itself, or do you need the previous seasons to make sense of it?
I think you kind of do. I mean, there are things you probably would be able to be like, okay, this is kind of cool or whatnot.
You can follow, but you don't understand the.
It would have more. Yeah, it would have more of an impact for it if you'd actually seen some of the first ones.
Okay.
Because again, like I said, it's like each one of them is kind of their own story in and of itself, almost episodically, basically. But at the same time, they all kind of string together because it is basically following his life. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, because what I did was I watched the first episode of the 5th season just to see like what he loves so much about this show, and I was completely like absorbed by the show. Like I'd say the first episode you don't need to know anything. Like you wouldn't feel lost. Like he explains a lot of what's going on, and if you want just a little taste of what the show has, then I would definitely say check out the first episode, because if you like that, then you'll definitely like the story.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's just good storytelling.
Oh yeah, and to me, that's one of the best things you can have in any sort of media whatsoever. Is just because like Big D said, I don't usually like slice of life animes, but this one has just enough of a twist to it that it keeps my attention.
That's good.
It's good.
And it's kept your attention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It feels like I kind of took a left turn in a couple episodes where she's in a committee and she's in charge of like recruiting people. So
she recruits 6 hot guys to fight for her affection.
Yes.
Who will she give the rose to today? Who is going to leave the island? Find out on Bachelorette season 50.
I like the attention. She's cool with having like a spirit servant, so it's kind of like mutually works out.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just kind of weird situation, but at the same time, I'm like, this is kind of cool. I kind of like that.
It's kind of cool, creepy, and weird. Yeah.
It's like almost like if they would have had her be the main focus point instead of the other guy, I'd have been happier.
I agree.
with
Or
it.
the author, because she clearly has a deeper role in this.
Yes.